topic of today's post. Remember, it's not exactly how your foot appears, but how well does it function. So for example, today we are focusing on more of that tendency to overpronate or have a flat foot. But you may never change your flat foot, but you can change how well it functions. If for the example of the first exercise we shared, which was the short foot exercise, if you can functionally create an arch, if you can start to tune into those muscles and recognize that in the foot individually, and then by the third progression that we shared, can you work on those two things together, how the hip and the foot interrelate? And so it's how well can we move between pronation and supination, because both are important to have, and we're not trying to eliminate one or the other. It's just that ability to move in and out of them, which is really important for the gait cycle, which is really important for your function. I get this question a lot, and 2 people asked on Friday, so it's going to take a couple videos to go through the rationale like I would engage in if I was having this conversation about pursuing pregnancy again after pelvic organ prolapse. So first, let's highlight the main contributors to prolapse. Typically, one is the first delivery, where we see a lot of changes in the pelvic floor, but we also see a lot of changes through pregnancy. 2 is the size of the infant at delivery, with a larger baby being correlated with pelvic organ prolapse. How long was your push phase? So a really long push duration is usually correlated with POP. Short, quick ones sometimes can be too. Did you need assistance? Episiotomies and forceps are highly correlated with it, as well as just in general increasing incidence of pelvic organ prolapse with the higher number of births that you've had. Now, we also know that constipation is huge with prolapse, and it's almost like, is the constipation driving the prolapse, or is the prolapse making it harder to poop, and vice versa. But there is correlation between those who have constipation frequently and those who have prolapse. So constipation, higher BMI, as well as looking at posture and all the pressure stuff that I talk about all the time, are also contributors to prolapse. So when you start to address this like issue of, will it get worse after I have another pregnancy, or like, should I consider having another child if I have prolapse? I think that there's a ton of things to consider when making that decision. So my thoughts always are, we can learn so many things to influence maintaining our prolapse if it's something we already have, regardless if we're going to get pregnant again. And so, think back to your first pregnancy. If you're contemplating another, did you have any idea about what pressure control was? Did you know how to breathe? Did you know how to activate your pelvic floor and your core? Did you know how to poop and pee properly? How did your delivery go? Is there certain things you think you can influence the second time around? We can't change everything, but we can try to learn different breath techniques and positional things that can make the push phase a little bit better and less strenuous on the pelvic floor. So I think that there's a lot that goes into it, but I would also encourage you that we do have a lot of control over controlling the pressure for our pelvic organ prolapse, and so I wouldn't let that limit you going into another pregnancy.